Uh, Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Dr. KK's Heartcare Foundation of India. We are live on Tuesday morning session on the various social media platforms. One of the main purpose for our organization is to spread the mass awareness on various topics which are relevant. Last week, we committed we will bring another topic which is relevant. And today we are with one of our experts. Today's topic we will be discussing is common neurological problem, headache, back pains, neck pains. We will also cover migraines, head injuries, brain tumor. As we all know, June is observed as a migraine and headache awareness month. So, this is one of the best months to cover this topic. All these is covered by neurological and lifestyle problems. We will also discuss the effects of lifestyle and all those conditions. It has been seen that over 1 billion people in the globe has been affected by migraine. It has been recognized as number 2 cause of disability worldwide. To discuss on this topic, we will have Dr. Dhananjay Bhatt. We are blessed to have him. He's one of the renowned neurologists. Thank you, Mr. Bhatt, for being with us. I know you were 6 o'clock, you were busy in the morning for the surgery, and you gave us time. To introduce Dr. Bhatt, we have he's a senior consultant and a neurosurgeon at Astra RV Hospital in Bangalore. Prior to that, he was in Nimhans as a unit head. Over 2 decades as a neurosurgeon, he has an opportunity to operate more than 6,000 cases of brain, spine, and peripheral nerve pathologies. He has actively involved in a lot of research and published a lot of studies under his name in his field. He's also been a co-author of 120 peer-reviewed publications. Welcome, Dr. Bhatt, for being with us. And I would like you to introduce the topic. This is one of the very, very important topic. And before you introduce this, I would like to say this. We are on this is a 60th session of Tuesday morning, and total accumulated session we have covered is 2,744. And I would also like to acknowledge the presence of Mr. Vivek, who has helped us to brought you in for this relevant topic. We also have Dr. Anil Kumar with us, and we also have all other directors and all our members of health educators with us. Over to you, Dr. Bhatt.
Thank you. Good morning, one and all. I'm really excited to be in this session. First of all, I'd like to thank my senior colleague, Dr. Sudhir Pai, who has been instrumental in connecting me to your Heartcare Foundation, and Vivek ji and Saurabh ji for giving me this opportunity to speak on such interesting topics. As a neurosurgery is a very interesting and challenging field, and it gives goosebumps even to me when I think of it. And when you think of you're touching the brain, you're operating on the brain, spinal cord and all that, you feel so happy and excited. Brain is supposed to be one of the most complex structure which is known to mankind in this entire universe. And we know very little of how the brain functions and what it does, what happens when there is problem in the brain. So this makes neurosurgery and neurology a very challenging, very exciting course. In today's discussion, we will talk a little bit about the common neurological problems, neurosurgical problems which we encounter and which is very common to many people, most commonly being headaches and back pains. Coming to headaches, as Saurabh has correctly told, it inflicts so many people. At least half of the adult population would have suffered headache in this last 1 year. In a very small percentage of cases, this may be a harbinger of something which is very dangerous, something which is bad going on your brain, something which can cause some existential crisis. But most of the time, it is a major cause of disability. It is not a life-threatening condition. It causes a lot of disability. There's a lot of distress. There is a lot of anxiety. There's depression. There is worry whether inside my brain there is something, whether I'm going to get a stroke, whether I'm going to get a tumor, whether I'm going to die. So these things bring up a lot of stress on the people. And along with that, there is a lot of financial losses. A lot of people are absent from work because of headaches. There is a lot of financial burden on the family, on the society. So this makes the quality of life of the person also significantly is hampered. According to WHO, headaches are one of the most undiagnosed, undertreated, underrecognized condition. And there are at least some 150 subtypes of headaches. of which a few which are most relevant and most common are migraine headaches, tension type headaches, and then another important one is medication overuse headaches. Now, the migraine headaches, as most of you know, young adolescent people, it stays up to middle age as well as later age, more common in women, unilateral, throbbing, associated with blurring of vision. There is aura, there is something known as aura, flashes of light occurs. And then there is another type of headache, which is known as tension type headaches. Tension type headache is almost very common. 3/4 of the population probably have tension type headaches. It's because of constant stress, tension, all the muscles go into contraction, and that causes a dull headache. They typically describe it as a band around the head, a tight band around the head. They're not able to hear. The noises are very irritating. Light is very irritating for these people. But unlike migraine, they generally do not have vomiting. And these people, tension headache, the headache is dull, continuous nagging, and they carry on with their daily work. The work does not worsen that headache. But in case of migraine, if you work, it worsens. They have to lie down and sleep. Another important headache is medicine overuse headache. Many times what happens is we take medications for so many other things, this pain, that pain, and sometimes we take 2-3 medications, and each will have a combination. There may be paracetamol in both the medications you're taking. That is the most common. And then while taking these medications, when you stop them, you get a rebound headache. That is medication overuse headache. So these are the basic common type of headaches which are relevant for us. And there is also, as I told you, a very small percentage. See, if suppose you see 100 cases of headaches, at least 90 to 95% of the headaches will be the so-called benign, not very dangerous. There will be a very small percentage, around 2 to 5% of the cases where headache may be dangerous. It may be life-threatening. There may be something going on inside your brain. Now, what are those conditions? They may have sudden severe headache. It is known as a thunderclap headache. Sudden, as if something is blasted in the head. That is a very important sign that there is something wrong and you have to show. Whenever headache is a new onset headache, you never had headache and then first time you're getting a headache, that time is an indication you have to go and show what it is. If headache frequency changes, increases, severity increases, character changes, all these are features which tell that there is something going on. If headache is early in the mornings, associated with vomiting, and vomiting will relieve headache. This is also one of the features that inside the brain, there is something going on. Along with it, even in migraine, there is vomiting, which will relieve the headache. But that can occur anytime, especially morning type headache with vomiting is an indication that something is going on inside the brain. So these are the common 4 types of headaches, and there are so many other headaches also. And definitely we take questions and we can answer them. And then
yeah, so Dr. Bhatt, before you're asking this question, so how do you differentiate between a headache of let's say migraine or a regular headache, or probably a headache which can it could be a tumor or something inside, or it could be a very severe.
Correct.
Like, how do you differentiate in this today's world? Because everybody, I'm watching a screen right now, I might have a headache after 10 hours.
Yeah, correct. See, basically what happens is in migraine headache, the clinical characteristics are that it usually starts in a young age, during puberty, adolescence, more common in women. It is unilateral, one side headache, which is throbbing. It just goes part, throbbing sort of headache on one side. And then just before the headache, you may have some feeling that you're going to get the headache. And then there will be flashes of light for some time. And then after that, severe headache, vomiting, and vomiting will relieve the headache. Also sleeping. When you sleep and get up, headache will be relieved. More common in women, especially with the hormonal changes during the menstruation, it can worsen. So all these will give us clue that it is probably a migraine-related headache. And in tension type of headache, as I told, there will be a tight band. And these are dull headaches which will not interfere with our daily activities. Suppose it is a headache which is dangerous, which can cause some existential crisis, like raised intracranial pressure. When the pressure inside the brain increases, see what happens is the brain is inside a fixed compartment, like a skull, the skull. So there is no place for the brain to expand. Suppose you have a tumor under your skin, the skin will expand. So the tumor can grow and grow. But inside the brain, if a tumor is growing, even if it increases by 1 or 2 centimeter cube, the pressure inside the brain is going to increase because it is a closed box. So that will cause the different types of headaches, like this early morning headache. During the height of headache, there is vomiting, there is blurring of vision. And these headaches, as the day progresses, the headache keeps increasing in severity. The migraine headache will be the same headache for 5 years, 10 years, without any change in severity. Characteristic will remain the same. But in this raised intracranial pressure headache, when there's a tumor inside the brain, the headache keeps rapidly increasing in severity, rapidly increasing in frequency. Initially, it will come once a day, then it will start staying twice a day, then 3 times a day. Then the gap between headaches will be hardly 1 or 2 hours. Then the headache becomes continuous. So all these things will tell us that headache is some problem is there inside the brain. And then when we clinically examine the patient, we will have to see through the eyes. We put a light inside the eye and see. That is a fundus examination. And we can pick out whether there is the optic nerve. The nerve is there, whether it's swollen. So if it is swollen, it indicates pressure inside the brain is high. So that will give us a clue that there is something wrong inside the head and we need to investigate further. You're muted.
So I remember Dr. KK used to say anything which is unusual after 30 years of age, which is not something which you have in a regular life, you should always consult a doctor. If it is something which is a regular, it might be something else. But if it's something which happens unusual, which is not regular, you should consult a doctor. But again, my question comes to you is, in this scenario, when the world has become digital, when we are talking everything on virtual, kids are not playing outside, they are busy on the screen. How do you differentiate that when this headache needs to have a doctor's opinion or is just a regular eyesight or something, when do I need to know whether I need to consult a doctor or go to the hospital?
See, the thing is, if you, the best thing is, if a headache comes for the first time, it is better you show it to a doctor.
And which doctor? Like, it could be an eyesight, it could be
that is very difficult. It is extremely difficult for you to identify. That too, nowadays with specialization, with each doctor specialized in his field, it becomes very difficult for you. Suppose there is a good general physician who can assess and tell probably it is this, and then refer you to the particular specialist, it will be better. Otherwise, you have to go to one specialist and he will see, and then he may tell you go here, or it is in our field or in some other field.
And so, considering today's scenario, when the physical meetings of doctors are very, very limited and people are consulting on online, how does that, is it still okay?
That is definitely, that is definitely hampering the quality of medicine. But for us, because we are seeing patients, roughly we can tell that, okay, there is something wrong in this person. He requires further investigation. This person, this is not that severe. We can give medications and see. So if we have a doubt on history and when we look at the patient and talk to the person, if we feel something is wrong, we will definitely ask for investigation. Otherwise, what we can do is we probably give a trial of some medication and then follow up. Instead of following him after 1 month, follow him within a week and see whether he's worsening, improving, and then take a call.
Also, we have seen a lot of headaches happening because of the lack of sleep. If you have a proper sleep, I think most of the headaches have gone. But there are also trigger points, which I understand is a cause of migraine. So let's say if you are having a morning tea and you don't have a morning tea, or you don't have a breakfast in the morning, you suddenly have a migraine. Is that also something which can be a long-term effect, which can cause disability or something, or which will that, it's a short-term effect?
Correct. See, this migraine, management of migraine, identifying this trigger factors is very important. In migraine, there are a lot of trigger factors. As you rightly pointed out, lack of sleep. People watching computer TV for a very long time, people who are exposed to loud sounds. And then there are people who have certain types of food like chocolates, or if they have Coke, or if they have coffee, they may get headache. Or people who may have these processed foods with all those preservatives in them, that can trigger headache. Sometimes the house you put this agarbatti, incense sticks, perfumes, they may be a source of headache. So in migraine, it is very, very important that we pick up these trigger points. See, there's no point taking medication. Medication will suppress this pain as long as you take it. Then afterwards, if you go back to your daily, again, you are exposed to that smell, again, you start eating the same food, the headache is going to recur. So it is very important to maintain a diary of when you get headache, when it was there, whether it was related to this type of food, whether it was related to lack of sleep. And then you should avoid them. It is very simple to manage migraine. You just avoid these trigger factors. Your life will become very, very good.
So, Mr. Bhatt, very, very important observation you have brought. And I would like to announce my viewers that whenever you have something unusual, try to document it. Because if you cannot tell your doctor what exactly is the problem, because he will ask, what time you have a headache, what time what was your BP, what was your eye, like, do you have an eyesight problem? If you cannot tell that information, then he also has a limited hand to inform you and tell you what is going on. So whenever you have a headache, just maintain a book, maintain what is your blood pressure, maintain what is your temperature, maintain what time you did, what did you had before 1 hour, what was the date, and did you had enough sleep or not? That will in fact help us out to figure out whether it is a mild headache or not. So again, now my question is, when do you think the person has to go for an MRI? Because MRI brings a lot of radiation. It is not advisable to do the MRI every hour or every weekly.
No, I think no, that one I'll just clarify. It is the CT scan which has radiation.
Okay.
So
sorry.
CT scan is dangerous, and doing unnecessary CT scans is not indicated. MRI is safe. MRI even for pregnant women, even for the babies in the fetus, the fetal MRI, all of that is done. So MRI is safe. Nothing happens with MRI. So MRI can be done. And a patient, we get an MRI whenever, I told on clinical examination. If patient has got this not papilledema, it is known as, we look into the eye and see whether pressure inside the eye is high. So if there is papilledema, if patient has got some neurologic deficit, some weakness in the hand, leg, if he has presented with seizures, fits, if along with the headache he has got fits, or if there is some loss of consciousness, or if the headache is not resolving even after medication, then we decide and we do an MRI. CT scan, the advantage of CT scan is just in 3 minutes, less than 30 seconds, a CT scan head is done. An MRI takes at least half an hour for a proper MRI. So you need patient cooperation. Patient has to lie still. Otherwise, you have to give anesthesia. CT scan is 30 seconds. We can just do it fast. But CT scan is a very crude way of finding out whether tumors are there. And generally, CT scan is used for head injuries. So because time is of essence over there. So we do a CT scan, see whether any hematoma, blood clots are there, take up for surgery or medical management.
So, sir, we have also seen a lot of cases that, people do miss out the tumor at the initial stage, even though they got an MRI done, they got a CT scan done, and they still miss out. How do you, what do I see in my body changes that it is actually going to a very severe stage? There are symptoms which I have to notice in my body, apart from...
See, apart from headache, you will have weakness, you may have memory loss, you may not be able to think properly, you may be forgetful, and your neighbors will, your relatives and your close by members will all think, what is he doing? He's forgetting things. He does not know how to dress up properly. He does not know how to go from one room to another room.
But that will be that will be an advanced stage, or that will be early stage also?
So see, this depends on where the lesion is arising. A very small tumor or whatever, if it is present over the motor cortex, for example, the place where the hand and leg movements are there, even a very small half centimeter tumor also can present with weakness.
Okay.
So it's not that once you develop a weakness, it is in the early stage. But as it becomes late stage, you start becoming drowsy, unconsciousness, all those things occur. Vision loss will be there.
Okay. You also want to talk about head injuries. So would you like to throw some light on it? Like what happens in the case of head injuries?
See, in head injuries, what happens is headache is, if you're talking only pertaining to headaches, in mild head injury and moderate head injuries, headaches are very common. See, like so many times what would have happened is we would have seen people who have just had a slight hair, the head would have hit a wall, or they would have just fallen on the ground. They would have got up and gone. But after that, they're still having continuous headache. They have headache, some pulling sensation will be there. They're unable to concentrate, read, sleep is disturbed. They become very irritable. So all these are post-concussion syndromes.
Okay.
So in these patients also, there is continuously dull headache and continuous nagging headache, difficulty in sleeping, and all those things will happen.
So a lot of questions are coming, headache because of gastro problem, acidity, dehydration. How do you want to answer that question?
See, as I told you, there are at least some 150 subtypes of headache. So if you just come, I have got only headache, it is very difficult to pinpoint because of what it is. We'll have to see the patient as a whole, find out what other problems he has or she has, and then only we can come. Gastritis, patients with gastritis, they will have some symptoms of gastritis, nausea, pain abdomen. So all those things will be there. So when we correlate, we will come to know that it is probably related to something else. It is a secondary type, not directly from the head.
So I think one of the very concerning problem for parents are headache at the younger age. Even the kids have headache.
Kids, yeah.
So the medication is also not advisable. Like, what do you want to do in that front?
See, nowadays with our present lifestyle, with a lot of computer, a lot of all the reading going on and all those things, children with migraine headaches are quite common. And also children who have vision problems, there is refractory errors in the eye, especially if they're different, if there is astigmatism. So all those things also can cause headache. So one important thing is a simple rule is healthy lifestyle. Children sleep properly 8 to 10 hours, even for adults, 8 to 10 hours sleep, have healthy food, avoid all processed food, avoid junk food, Coke, all these things, avoid, most of these headaches will come down.
Okay. So I read somewhere in the I don't know, it may be correct or wrong. It says that the migraine has no cure, but it is preventable. Is that true?
No, I cannot say, I don't think it is preventable. Migraine, you cannot see, first of all, you cannot, there is no test to tell that this person can get a migraine. So it's very difficult to tell it is preventable. Migraine has got a lot of etiological factors, genetics is there, so many things are there. And medicine can cure for some extent. It is not that I cannot tell that you, like an antibiotic you take, infection gets cured. Like that, taking migraine medication, sometimes we give for 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, and all we'll have to give. So generally over the years, slowly, it comes down.
But
it doesn't get cured with a short course of, definitely it doesn't get cured with a short course of medication for most of them.
And change in the lifestyle can
definitely, that will definitely help. That will definitely help. Change in lifestyle, good exercises, breathing exercises, body mind interactive exercises like yoga, breathing, walking, all those things will definitely help.
Okay, what about the vitamins in the body, like vitamin D, vitamin B12?
That is, I think that's a very controversial issue. I feel it is little hyped up. I don't think that makes a major difference in the health of people.
But I remember loss in the blood, like anemic patients do have a severe
anemic, different.
Anemic, yeah.
That is there. See, suppose if all blood parameters are normal and you get headache and then still you want to take vitamins, it is not there. Obviously, if you have anemia, if you have B12 deficiency, if you have some other vitamin deficiency, which is documented, then taking them and treating will definitely useful. I'm just talking about these supplements which we just keep taking over the counter, this vitamin capsule, this vitamin E, vitamin cod liver oil, and all those things.
Okay, so we have a discussion on headache. Let's move to spine and neck pain. So can you introduce that?
Yeah, that's another very common ailment that most of the people in our lifetime will face. Most of us would have had at least one episode of back pain or neck pain in our life. So it's estimated that 80% of the population, adult population, will have back pain. This back pain is actually the price we are paying for changing our evolutioning ourselves from quadrupedalism to bipedalism. We were 4-legged creatures. Now we have become 2-legged, erect. So the spine is not built for us to stand straight and sit. The spine became straight for if you see the evolution, the hunter-gatherers who were there, who were walking around different places, they were just walking, taking fruits, eating, bending a little bit, eating. They had no chairs to sit. They were either walking and going or lying down. Then later on, as we became agriculturists, around 12,000 years back, then we started bending, digging, doing heavy work and all that. And now with the present industrial revolutions, we are busy sitting on cushioned sofas, slouching and sitting, sedentary lifestyle. All these things have, we had to pay the price for all this in the form of back pain. See, our spine, if you see our spine, it is like, if I give you an analogy, it is like cups and saucers. The cup is the vertebral body and the saucer is the disc. So you have to stack around 24 cups and saucers, one over each other, and then put some duct tapes, cellophane tapes, put some clips and make it stand straight. That becomes our spine. So for an engineer, this one is a nightmare. We are not built to actually sit for long, bend and do all those things. We are meant to just walk around. Now that we sit with slouching position and all, everybody, most of us have this back pain. Our sedentary lifestyle, slouching sitting, we sit back, our sofa on the back, cushioned sofa, with all the weight on our tailbone. We hardly walk around. We eat a lot of junk food, and then we have obesity, smoking. All these things predispose to severe back pain. And another thing is, we cannot, even genetics is supposed to play a role in this. It's not that only those people who lift heavy weights and daily laborers, coolies who lift very heavy weights, not all of them get disc problems. So genetics seems to be one important factor. And another important factor is our longevity. Previously, our life expectancy was 30, 40 years. And then, but the spine could maintain that. Now, as is 60, 70 years, so the spine gets degenerated. So the spine is not made for this longevity. So that is why it is very, very common. Again, like headaches, this is one of the most common cause for absenteeism from work, depression, anxiety, a fear that whether I will get paralyzed, and people going from one doctor to another doctor to another doctor, still back pain is not going. So that is what happens.
And how do I differentiate whether it is a nerve disorder or it is actually a back pain, or is there any nerve which is getting bent in the bone?
Correct. These are known as red flags. See, any pain normally, what happens is how the pain started. Suppose in acute onset, you lift something and then severe, you get pain. That may be because of muscle strain, or there may be ligament injury, or there may be a disc prolapse, or a vertebral body fracture, or the nerves may be compressed. Okay. The back strain, the neck strain are all one of the mild ones, which generally with medical management and exercises may become okay. The dangerous ones are those which are causing nerve compression, vertebral body fracture. So these things to identify, we'll need to take a proper history. A significant fall may indicate that there may be a fracture. Elderly people who have developed new onset back pain, that may be some tumors, maybe fractures may be there. Radicular pain, the pain which shoots down the leg. So you cannot put one step also forward. If you put, it should be a sharp shooting pain. Then when you wear slippers, your slippers slip from your feet. So it indicates that there is some weakness. If you have fever, weight loss, if there is some issues in passing urine. So if the urine nerves are compressed, there will be retention of urine, there will be straining while passing urine, there will be dribbling of urine, no control will be there. If there is some sensory loss on your leg, if you touch, you feel numb. Then all these things indicate that something serious is there and you need to definitely undergo some investigation.
Okay. And what about the neck pain? Like, is that
neck pain is also seen now when we sit, we bend our head and continuously sit for 2-3 hours. Our computers are low down. We see lie down on the bed and read books, see the mobile lying down. And what this poor spine will do, that will go on. It will become totally fatigued, stressed, fractures, muscle tear, everything will happen. Always neck should be straight. Our computers should be straight. We should see straight. Every 10-20 minutes, while we sit, we have to get up 20 minutes, walk around a bit, do some stretching, come back and sit. Whenever we sit, the neck should be straight as well as our back. So chairs should be straight, ergonomically designed chairs. Like our dining table chairs, those are the best chairs. These cushioned recliner chairs and all, we just slouch and sit, and neck pain, back pain, everything will come. Similarly, even in the neck, if there is a disc problem, a major problem, you start having pain radiating to the hand, shock-like sensations coming to the hand. There may be weakness in the hand, gripping objects will be difficult. So those are indications that you need to undergo further investigations.
Okay. Before I open the forum for the question answers with the public, can we talk about the lifestyle changes which can help in the regular problems which are really not severe and which does not need doctors?
For everything, like for headache, neck, back pain, there's only one simple mantra. Do morning good exercises, walking, eat healthy foods. It's all known, well known. Avoid all these junk foods, Coke. Avoid sedentary lifestyle. Sit not for 10-20 minutes. On a proper chair, you have to sit. Walk around up and down. Do some neck exercises. See far off. Eye strain, continuously looking at the computer, you will have computer vision syndrome. Eye strain will be there. That will go to headache. And once headache comes, it will go at the back. Similarly, neck pain. When there is severe neck pain, the neck pain can come forward like this and come to the head in front. So all these things can be avoided. See this side, that side. After 10-20 minutes of computer vision, see far, look outside, drink plenty of water, avoid smoking, limit alcohol intake. I think that's it. If you do that, most of the problems will be under control.
So alcohol intake, like how much is something which I think that's a question.
I'm a teetotaler. There is no thing like how much. I'm not sure about that.
So you can tell all those people to avoid, but eventually they will not, because this is something which
limited should be okay.
Okay.
You should not become addicted to it. So you should know that, okay, I can take one, I'll take one and stop. I'm not going to become a slave of that. I think that should be okay.
Okay. What about the, sleeping posture? Like, is that something related to the back pain?
Yeah, see, sleeping is best is to use a firm bed. Some coir bed is most enough. No need to use a soft cushion bed is not required. Nor you need to sleep on the ground, on the charpoy or something like that. And then basically the body is the best person which will tell you how it is comfortable. People who have disc problem, they like to curl and sleep. Pain will come down. Some people like to sleep on one side. Some people like to sleep straight. So whichever is comfortable for them, they can sleep. Avoid very thick pillows. A small pillow, medium-sized pillow should be more than enough. A little firm one.
Okay. So we will open the question answers for the forum. And Mr. Vivek, would you like to continue with the question? Would you like to start with the question?
Thank you, Dr. Dhananjay. On behalf of HCFI, you have taken up a beautiful subject, and it's a very vast subject,
Yes,
and we
thank you.
cannot very specifically say you get a headache because of a particular thing. It could be
Exactly.
from tumor to your lifestyle and nowadays, a lot of people are working from home, and most of them are sitting at home either on their sofa watching TV and doing work. And the another issue which we need to highlight, I think is very important, is that most of the children are today also getting educated from home. And unfortunately, most of the children are not able to go to school and they are working out of iPad. So how do we ensure, like, unlike when we have been growing up, we were mostly outdoor. As of now, most of the children are indoor. What would be your advice to the parents, that knowing that they have to do the digital education in
Yes, sir.
today's time, what precautions and preventives they can do, because these children can start suffering from back problem and neck
Yeah.
problem and muscles at a much younger age?
Yeah. So
Also to add, what is a long-term effect? Because today we are doing a virtual world, but how
Yeah.
does that affect after 20 years is we don't know today.
We don't know. We don't know. Okay, so a very relevant thing. I think parents should invest on some good, proper chairs and tables for these children. They should not make them sit on their adult table chairs or on the dining table and do the work. Strictly tell them not to sit on sofas, bed. Sometimes they just sit on the bed, keep the laptop and attend the class. All those things should be strictly avoided. And I think classes in between, after each period, some 5-10 minutes break is there. You make them go around, go outside, see outside, at least from the window or something, and come back, drink adequate water. And one problem with this computer is many of these children, they forget to blink. We don't blink. Many of us adults, at least when we watch a computer and all those things, our eyes remain open. We forget that involuntary blinking, and that leads to a lot of dry eye problems. So children also may have these dry eye problems. And that can again cause headaches and all neck pain and all those things. So it is very important that they sit properly, do the classes, and then whatever little exercise is possible inside the house, I think they should do that.
Okay, so I'll take questions. Geeta Khilani.
A lot of questions for Dr. Dhananjay on this chat also.
Chat. So I'm asking those questions. So how to differentiate headache due to neck issue and the blood pressure? Both of them are severe to me, and how to control it?
Thing is, if you have both, cervical spondylosis is very common after a particular age, after 30-40 years of age, there is some amount of cervical degeneration which takes place. So there also there will be pain, and blood pressure also can cause headache if it is not controlled properly. So best is to get your blood pressure controlled. If the blood pressure is controlled, then probably whatever pain is there, it will generally be because of the neck pain. There will be severe neck pain, which will worsen with neck movements. And the days where you do more work, strenuous work, use your hand more, your neck pain will be more. While blood pressure headache will definitely come down once the blood pressure is under control.
Can a blood pressure be one of the symptoms of neurological problem in the body?
Definitely, it can be. It can definitely be a neurological problem. Blood pressure itself can be but it's very, very small percentage. Not all people with high blood pressure have something in the brain. A very small percentage of people who have brain problems can have blood pressure problem. And one thing in medicine is that there is nothing like, if this is there, it can be this. It cannot be something else. Just because blood pressure is controlled, I cannot have headache, nothing like that. You can still have headache. Even if you have high blood pressure, you may not have headache. So there is no hard and fast rule for anything in medicine.
So the next question is heaviness on forehead, temple, area pain behind the eyes, could it be because of the sinus or due to the eyesight? Or it could be a nerve issue?
It can be 2-3 reasons. As likely pointed, it can be because of sinusitis. Sinusitis headache, generally what happens is you usually have recurrent cough, cold, running nose. And when they bend forward, they have severe headache. Eye strain can cause this type of headache. Definitely, it can cause this type of headache, especially if there is refractory errors in the eye and if there is power in the eye. And third one, it can be a simple stress-related headache also. A tension type of headache can present like this. This is unlikely to be migraine headache or raised intracranial pressure headache.
Okay, so the next question again comes for a child. A 12-year-old girl has a headache on the one side of the head, often vomits and acidity. What should be done?
12-year-old child, 12 years, one side headache. This looks like a vascular type of headache, like a migraine type of headache. So this probably, see, now what happens in migraine is, it depends on the frequency of headache. Suppose the headache is just once in a month or twice a month. Then we just give tablets during that time. Just take this tablets for 2-3 days and stop it. Suppose a headache is there 3 times a week, every alternate day headache is there, or headache is there almost every day. Then we have to give certain other medications, which they have to take for prolonged period for 3 months, and then we'll try to slowly stop it.
And if it continues, would you advise investigation in terms of the CT scan or MRI?
No, generally, if we see the patient and then his history is classical like this, clinical examination will rule out everything. Many times, what happens for us is, I will be confident that there is nothing in that, nothing is required. But the parents, because the child, they don't want to take a risk. No, please get. And so sometimes we will have to oblige and get. Then they are also satisfied. Okay, nothing is there. So that's why many of the scans are done.
Okay, have you noticed any post-COVID effect or long COVID effect on neurological problems?
Yeah, definitely. No. See, during COVID times, there are brain hemorrhages, brain strokes, especially in the second wave. The first wave, we were just hearing about that. In our hospital, we were just hearing, oh, that somewhere there it has been reported, a case report is there, that, this and all. But this wave, in our own hospital, we have seen people who have developed the blood vessels gets blocked because of this COVID infection, and then they land up with stroke, severe headaches they may have, weakness they may have, or there may be major bleeding inside the head, which again causes headache, weakness, altered consciousness, and all those things. And then there is another condition of people who develop COVID, recover, and post-COVID, because they are exposed to so much of stress, anxiety, there will be so much of hypoxia, the oxygen will be less. These type of people also have fatigue, dull headaches, depression, anxiety, all those things are commonly seen in them.
Okay. One of the questions which we all know is like, the ear problem, when it comes to the nerves on the neurological problems in the ear.
Yeah.
And like, something like vertigo or tinnitus, so that is also related to the nerves, ENT. And so how does that affect the brain?
See, what happens is in the ear, there are 2 systems in the ear. One is known as the cochlea and one is known as the vestibular system. The cochlea is responsible for hearing. All the sounds go through the cochlea and then it goes through a nerve known as 8th nerve and it goes into the brain. The vestibule is the balance mechanism. It balances the body. Whenever our head turns to one side, it balances the hand to one side. It helps us in balancing. So whenever this balance mechanism is damaged, we get this vertigo, imbalance and all that. And when the cochlea is damaged, with this sound, one high frequency sound will come, one sound will come. That is known as tinnitus, and that is because of the cochlea. And in these type of patients, generally headache is not a problem. They have severe imbalance, vertigo. When they just move their head like this, they get severe giddiness and they may vomit also. While trying to walk, they'll sway to one side to the other side. Such type of people are very careful. The head will be straight, but even when they have to turn somewhere, they will slowly turn like this, they will turn. They're very frightened. Suddenly they lift the head up, they will have severe vertigo and they can collapse also.
Okay. So a lot of questions in the chat box we've already answered. One of the question is post-COVID, a lot of people are facing a severe headache, continuous severe headache and muscular pain. Like especially facial muscular pain or hand pain or something. So how do you want to answer that?
These are all normally after any viral infection, body pain is common. So it will last. Sometimes it will last for weeks together, sometimes months together also. It may last, but slowly all these things will come down. Nothing to worry about it. You have to do slow graded exercises, breathing exercises, walking exercises. If pain is very severe, paracetamol tablet can be taken. Other than that, nothing else is required.
Okay.
And then slowly all these things will come down. Nothing to worry about.
Okay. So Dr. Uma says, I'm having a pain in my back and I'm having a Gabapin anti 400 for the past 1 year. For the pain is back. The day I miss it, I have an extreme pain in my spine. How long should we continue?
So that's what, as I told you, this all the medications we give for this back pain, head pain, does not cure the disease. Okay. It is like when you have fever because of an infection, you give paracetamol, the fever comes down, but the infection does not go. Like that only for back pain, these medications just suppress the pain. The muscle degeneration, the ligament degeneration, disc problem will not go with tablets. Whatever is there is there. You have to change your lifestyle. You have to do regular exercises, back strengthening exercises, abdominal strengthening exercises, weight reduction, avoid bending, lifting weights, keep the back always straight, sit not more than 5-10 minutes, get up, walk around. Do exercises like swimming or cycling. So if these things are done, then only over a long term, these pains will come down. I would not advise taking this gabapentin or any medication for 1 year. It is it is not good. We never know what these things will cause. Kidney damage, liver damage, all those things can occur. So it is completely not advisable. During the acute phase of pain, you can take these tablets maybe for 1 to 3 months. After that, definitely, I think you should stop it. And you should try all these alternate, these things like mind, body, interactive exercises like yoga. Exercises should be done.
So somebody has asked, so Geeta ji has asked, how effective is PEMF therapy?
Sorry, what is PEMF? I'm not aware of what is that.
Geeta ji, would you like to ask this question or?
Yes, sir. Good morning, doctor.
Good morning.
I have fibromyalgia since 28 years.
Okay.
Yeah, and post-COVID, I've got this edema in my joints, especially my left elbow and my left ankle.
Okay.
It's 9 months now. Then I got reinfected, so it aggravated a lot. So I'm on paracetamol since 9 months.
My God. Okay.
And I've done already TLF of my spine. That is the spine grafting too. I've done 3 spine surgeries also. So that aggravates on my problem. So now I'm into this PEMF, that is pulsed electromagnetic field combination therapy.
Okay.
So how effective is that? Because I'm doing it as 3 months, but I don't think I'm into too much in benefit with that. What is your view on this?
I think, see, now at present, what has been proven to be useful are only exercises, back and muscle strengthening exercises. All these other type of treatments, either this electric field therapy, then ultrasound therapy, all those things will just give you some temporary benefit. This is my personal opinion. It just gives temporary benefit. And there is no proper study which tells they have given long-term benefit. So I don't think it's of much use. You have to do exercises. And now that you have undergone 3 times surgery, I think you do proper exercises. That is best. Only thing is next, what we can offer for all these things is a pump, which is directly this one, an radio frequency stimulation directly on the spinal cord. A battery operated stimulation of the spinal cord to reduce the pain. That is the last option which is available in these type of conditions.
Sir, somebody is asking me about, paralytic effects, attack, or how does a paralysis be an effect of one of the neurological problem which can be identified much before? Is that something related together?
Paralysis and
neurological problems initially,
No, see, paralysis, stroke is a totally different topic. It occurs in middle elderly people because of clots in the neck vessels or in the heart, and then they get dislodged and they go into the brain and cause a stroke. So that is it's a different topic that you require blood thinners and physiotherapy for that. For prevention, these things need to be done. Cholesterol levels have to be monitored, lipid profiles have to be monitored. And exercises are important. Basically, even for this also, exercises is very important. Healthy food, avoid junk food and all these things. So it prevents even stroke.
I think everything is coming back to the lifestyle.
See, it's just the lifestyle. It is just the lifestyle.
I think doctors are there after the lifestyle, has gone so bad that you need a surgery, you need a extensive care. Then that is when the doctors are required. But everything can be controlled at the lifestyle end. My mother is
sorry. No, please continue.
So my mother is age 54, gets an episode of moderate headaches in the back of the head 1 or 2 times a month. It generally causes in the morning after getting up. Headache is accompanied by the neck pain and the back pain. Is there something which I should worry about?
I think this type of pain is typical of pain originating in the neck area, the cervical spine area. So I don't think there's anything major to worry about it. She needs to do exercises. Suppose what happens is, suppose there are tumors inside the brain, in the posterior part of the head. So those type of conditions are very dangerous. Those people will have severe, when they cough, they have severe headache. They have imbalance while walking. Vision blurring will be there. So those things will indicate there is some problematic. This one doesn't look that bad. I think it's just related to some muscle strain. I don't think anything needs to be worried about this. With some good exercises, it should come down.
I'm detected with muscle atrophy and has been asked to consult neurologist. Please advise what is happening. My right hand is also not lifting in a certain position.
Yeah, this definitely requires neurological examination. We need to see. There is no doubt about it. And once wasting is occurred, means it is a little advanced disease. So I think on an urgent or as early as possible, you need to take an advice from a neurologist or neurosurgeon. You need to get investigated for this.
Is brain hemorrhage a possible cause of post-COVID effect?
Post-COVID brain hemorrhage can occur. As I told you, this wave, we are seeing a lot of patients who are having brain bleeding following COVID. So that is possible. Definitely it is possible. Strokes as well as bleed is definitely possible.
Okay. How do you know if leg muscle pain is due to the nerve compression?
Yeah, okay. That is, we need to see the history. Normally, if it is because of a nerve compression, the pain is sharp shooting, radiating pain. It's like a shock, electric shock-like pain, which occurs on the first step. When you cough and sneeze, the pain radiates from the back. It comes down the thigh and goes up to the leg. And sometimes what happens is when you walk, after you walk around 100 meters or 200 meters, you start getting severe leg pain. And then you have to sit down. When you sit down, your pain is relieved. And then you can continue walking. All these indicate that's nerve compression pain. See, leg pain can also occur if the blood supply to the leg is also hampered. In those conditions, what happens is when you start walking, you'll have severe cramping pain in the calf muscle. But when you just stand, pain will go. But in a nerve compression, even if you stand, the pain will not go. Only when you sit and bend a bit forward, pain will get relieved. So that's how you differentiate vascular pain and from a neurological pain. And local knee problem is there will be knee tenderness, there will be difficulty in crossing the legs, climbing up stairs, all those things you do.
So are you trying to say whatever the pain, let's say you start doing an exercise, you start doing a running, you start doing a treadmill, the pain which occurs for the first few minutes and then go off is not a problematic. The pain which continues.
It may be just a muscle sore also. That may not be. Initially, when you're doing exercises, you get some pain. Yeah, that's because of the lactic acid buildup. So that pain will go with the rest. If it goes, that's not a problem at all.
Okay. Anyone who'd like to ask a question, kindly raise your hands. We'll call up for the question answers. What is paralysis of one side of face only, where lips, cheeks are having no sensation?
No sensation, or it is moving to one side?
It says having no sensation.
No, when paralysis of face occurs, the mouth goes to one direction. It goes like this. So this side of the face is paralyzed. And then there is inability to close that side eye. So the eye will close like this. It will become like this. So those things are known as, normally it occurs as an idiopathic cause. It is known as a Bell's palsy. So what happens is there is a facial nerve, the nerve which comes and supplies the face. So normally what 2-3 days prior to that onset, they will have some pain at the back of the ear in the mastoid area. They probably would have been exposed to some cold breeze, to put their head outside the car and travel for some 1 or 2 hours like that. And then afterwards, they develop pain on the face as well as paralysis of one of the face. That is Bell's palsy. That nothing to be, there is no surgical treatment or anything for that. That normally resolves by there is some residual weakness. During that connection, we give some steroids and so with exercises, slowly it improves.
So a lot of people are asking, what are the correct exercise you would like to do in the today's scenario, which can help us in the lower back pain or a back pain or a neck pain? I know plank is one of the exercise which helps really. Plank is a very, very good exercise. Which is
plank is a very good exercise. Plank is good. And then lying on your back, lifting your legs one by one or both. Then there's the scissors. There are so many. If you just look up on the internet, I was just seeing a lot of exercises there, which are all correct. Very nicely, they have shown all the cat pose, mountain climber, and then putting bird pose. All those exercises are very good. See, one simple rule is when you do an exercise, your back pain should not worsen. If you feel your pain is improving, the pain has reduced, it is the same, then you can do those exercises. Suppose you do an exercise and you're having severe pain, that means that exercise is not correct for you or you're not doing it properly. So better to avoid those exercises.
Okay, so I would call people for the question answers. I would please request to keep your questions in very short so that we can take the maximum questions. Can I invite Shruti? Please ask a question.
Hi, doctor. I'm Shruti.
Yeah.
Hello. Look, my mother was COVID positive. And after that, what happened? She has a high BP problem also. The BP reached by 190, 200. So due to that, she was admitted in ICU. Her BP was around 200. And then she had fallen down 2 times from the stairs also when she was having COVID. So we did an MRI and some stains were there in her brain. So the neuro told that nothing to worry, this is just because of the high BP. But now what is happening? She's forgetting things. Like if she makes some vegetable, she doesn't remember what she has made. So I just wanted to know that, is this like symptoms after the COVID? She is 65 years old.
Okay, yeah. See, 2-3 things. This can be after the COVID. This may be because, you know what, when COVID occurs, there may be some amount of brain damage which occurs. And this memory area of the brain, which is in the temporal lobe, is a very, very sensitive area. So mild amount of oxygen deprivation can cause damage to this. So it may be a part of the COVID, but there are chances that slowly it can improve. But if you have a history, a family history of Alzheimer's and all, then I think we need to look into it. Otherwise, if there's no such history, then nothing to worry. And also it depends on how severe the falls were. If the falls were severe, the fall itself is known to cause memory loss and forgetfulness. See, typically what happens is...
yeah, because she rolled down from 4-5 stairs. She told that ki mujhe chakkar aaya and she rolled down 4-5 stairs.
Okay.
Yes. And now she sits only in one room. She has stopped talking to anyone. She doesn't speak to anyone. And she keeps on saying, I don't want to talk to anyone. So it is a very big concern for us.
Okay.
And her
this
is also high.
This is how many days now post fall?
The first fall was last year and the second fall was around in April. When she came negative, she thought she's fine. So she went upstairs to give water to the plants, and suddenly she suddenly fallen down. Even she doesn't remember how she fallen down from the stairs. Okay. So after that only, she kept on saying that I'm having severe headache, but she did not vomit or something like that was not there. So doctors told that there is no concern, but now the concern is that she is not talking to anyone. Like she's sit in one room and but she keeps on saying I'm not well, I'm not well.
Okay. See, there are 2-3 reasons for these things. One, you need to show to a neurologist. These may be early features of some underlying neurological disorder, or she might be under depression, which may require treatment. Now, suppose all these things are ruled out, and then there are certain things known as cognitive and behavioral retraining, which a clinical psychologist will do. So you need to undergo those things. Those things, they will stimulate the mind and the brain and make them more active and better.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Ishan Agarwal.
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir.
Morning.
Sir, the point is like my mom is post-COVID and she has been almost 2.5 months now after she has recovered from the COVID. Now the point is, like a couple of weeks back, there was some kind of shivering in her hands, like this. She was doing like this, especially when she pick up something.
Ishan, can you come up with what is the concern right now? Can you straight away ask for the concern right now? We'll ask the history if it's required.
And one thing, another thing, sir, she has a pain from her thighs till cough. And a couple of weeks back, there was a pain on her hands and somewhere this side.
So it's a post-COVID pain he would like to address.
It's this should slowly improve. It's just 2.5 months. I think you should give some more time. Make her do some good exercises.
So Ishan, this is probably the post-COVID symptoms, long COVID, which you can, which will take over a period of time, which will cover up. Can we have Alka and then Rakesh Verma? Quickly ask your question. We have short
Hello. Yes,
Hello.
Alka here.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
See, after my bhabhi suffered with severe COVID, and we lost our mother also in that COVID. So whenever after recovery 2 months, whenever my bhabhi is undergoing very much stress and she remembers my mother, and so from me, her legs coordination gets affected. Means it feels like she has been paralyzed. She can't walk and all. जैसे पैर एकदम लटक जाता है, like ऐसे it happens like that. So I wanted to know what
this
is
this looks like a stress and anxiety related problem. She will outgrow this, but if it is becoming very severe, you need to take professional help from a counselor or a psychiatrist. You need to take help.
I think Dr. Bhatt, a lot of questions which are coming are almost similar in the lines. I think what I would like you to address is, can you define which pain will occur which side of the head? Like migraine ka generally one side hota hai, aisa kuch nahi hai? Matlab, is it something there's a sinus ka pain?
No, nothing like that. No, nothing like migraine can occur this side, that side, neck pain can occur here, stress headache will occur throughout the head. There's something known as cluster headache, which occurs only around one eye. Then there's some other autonomic dysfunction headaches where there's a lot of tearing. So it depends. There are a lot of types of headaches. We cannot definitely tell this one. Commonest is migraine, which will occur unilaterally. Tension headache, which occurs in a band. So I think those two is most common. And headache, which is because of problems inside the brain, is generally deep inside. It comes somewhere deep inside. A dull sort of headache will come.
डॉक्टर धनंजय, घर में ये कहा जाता है कि माइग्रेन जो है वो कहते हैं घर में कि आप पानी कम पीते हो, भोजन पे भोजन करते रहते हो, ठंडी चीजें आप खाते हो, हमारी फैमिली हिस्ट्री भी है और आप यूरिन को फ्रीक्वेंटली रोक लेते हो. दैट इज द मिथ और ये ट्रू के इसी वजह से माइग्रेन के ये रीजन है?
सर थोड़ा ट्रूथ भी है सर इसमें. लाइक बीइंग हंग्री, not taking adequate water, dehydrated, all these things can predispose to migraine headaches. And eating very frequently, a lot of food is also can cause headache. It can cause indigestion, it causes headache, stomach pain, so many problems it can cause. Cold food can also cause migraine headache. सभी एक patient पर नहीं आता है. One person will have one specific trigger factor. One person may get headache after drinking cold water, but another person may not get headache after drinking cold water. He may get headache after taking some cheese, some margarine, pasta. When he eats that, he may get headache. So one person will have a different trigger factor.
Sir, generic के बारे में?
General?
Hereditary
Genetics,
है
तो genetics भी होता है. Family history of headache will predispose to headaches. अगर पापा मम्मी को headache है, तो बच्चों के भी headache आने का chances होता है. थोड़ा high होता है.
And this headache also causes a hair loss? This is a personal question I would say. So a lot of people, like we have seen, suddenly like they have a lot of hair, there's no problem, and suddenly, the headache starts and there's a hair loss happening. Is it because of stress?
Hair loss may be a part of stress.
Nothing to do with
headache. Headache will not cause loss of hair.
Okay.
Saurabh ji.
So, yeah, please.
So my question is, if it is he complete hearing loss due to nerve damage, can it be reversible or irreversible? Because in some cases I know that. The nerve due to
So generally, because of nerve damage, if hearing loss is there, it will not come back.
Okay.
Temporary losses are there sometimes, which if within the ear, in the cochlea or something, or in the middle ear, if there is some infection, some fluid collection, hearing loss can improve. But if the nerve is damaged because of lack of blood supply or because of a tumor, then it does not come back.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so I think we are at the end of the session, and Mr. Vivek, would you like to speak on it? Would you like to have a question, or would you like to speak on it before we end the session?
I would like to thank Dr. Dhananjay for taking
Thank
out
you.
such of his precious time.
My pleasure.
I will also personally thank Dr. Sudhir Pai when I meet him in the morning. It's a lovely and a great enlightenment session. It's been very enlightening, and we will be circulating this session to many people who would watch it definitely in time to come on YouTube and Facebook. And many of you, if whoever has joined the session, please do share this on Facebook and YouTube links to your people. It's been a wonderful session with a lot of education and lot of inhibition and fear and anxiety we have about migraines and problems and pains have been very simply explained by Dr. Dhananjay. And I'll tell you, I feel so much relieved after listening to Dr. Dhananjay today. I'm going to definitely ask my HR people to share it with the people in the organization, where they can, especially, there has to be a lot of emphasis on what we eat and our lifestyle of how we sit and what we do. It's been a great enlightenment on that, and that way we can avoid going to Dr. Dhananjay.
I think we can only go for a virtual session with him.
So our purpose has to be that we don't want to meet him except as a friend. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
So thank you so much for joining this session. We have learned that a lot of our problems can be resolved with the change in the lifestyle. And irrespective whether it is a cardio problem or a neuro problem, you go to a general physician, get a lifestyle change. If you cannot fix it, then go to a specialist. That is a take-home message, I would say. Would you like to give any other take-home message for our audience before we close the session?
I think you have summarized it very well.
Okay.
It all boils down to good lifestyle.
Yes, a good lifestyle, a healthy food is what is the key. And I think in this lockdown, we have learned how simple the life can be. And in fact, it is very funny that a lot of issues in the body has suddenly moved out during this lockdown, because we have stopped eating out, we have stopped eating oily food, we have stopped, with the pollution and all that stuff. So we are at the close of 60th session. Thank you everyone for joining. Do tune us for all other sessions. We have all other sessions going on. Please subscribe to our channel so that you can get a regular updates. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Dhananjay, for joining us.
Thank you.
Saurabh, please explain them about our next session, which we are going to have next Tuesday.
So the next Tuesday, we will have a session on finance. We are bringing there is a mental stress, there is a physical stress, then there is a financial stress in this thing. So we as HeartCare Foundation try to bring not only the medical topics, but also try to bring what can actually help you out for other relevant topics, which can relieve your stress for the medical, because a lot of stress which happens leads to a medical problem. So financial is one of the very important topic. So we have one of the very important and eminent speaker who is into this industry for many years. Next Tuesday, we will have a financial topic. The topic will be probably, how to balance your fund, how to generate second income, what needs to be done. If you have lost your income, what needs to be done? What is the current mode of investments, where you can invest, where we know that funds have gone so low, the FD rates are only 3%, 2%. What are we going to do with this? What is the risk today to invest? All those things we will cover in that session. Please do join for next Tuesday session, which we will cover.
Thank you.